"You're supposed to tip me, you know?" Karen said, her face flushing an alarming shade of crimson as she stood in my driveway, waving a yellow citation form. "I work very hard enforcing the rules around here, and I deserve to be properly compensated for my efforts." I stared at her, genuinely unable to process what I was hearing. Was this woman, the president of our homeowners association, actually demanding that I give her money for writing me up over a trash can that was allegedly visible from the street for too long? "I'm sorry." "What?" I managed to say, acutely aware that several neighbors were peeking through their blinds at the commotion. "You want me to pay you for finding me?" Karen's perfectly highlighted bob haircut bounced as she nodded vigorously. "A 20% gratuity is customary. It ensures that I continue to give your property the attention it deserves." She extended her hand expectantly, long manicured nails glinting in the afternoon sun. "Cash is preferred, but I do accept digital payments." When I failed to immediately reach for my wallet, her expression darkened. "I can make things very difficult for you in this neighborhood if you don't show proper appreciation for my services," she said with a threatening tone. "I know every bylaw by heart, and I'm not afraid to enforce them." Little did I know this bizarre interaction would be just the beginning of a suburban nightmare that would eventually lead to flashing police lights and the sweet sound of handcuffs clicking shut. I had moved into Sunnyside Estates just 3 months earlier, drawn by the well-maintained lawns, the community pool, and what the realtor had described as a vigilant HOA that maintains property values. That vigilance, I would soon discover, came primarily in the form of Karen Wilkins, a 50-something woman who treated her position as HOA president with a gravity normally reserved for heads of state or military generals. My first encounter with Karen happened just 10 days after moving in. I returned home from work to find a bright orange notice stuck to my door. "Violation. Non-compliant mailbox color regulation number 237B. I hadn't even painted the mailbox. It was the same one that came with the house. When I called the number on the notice, Karen answered immediately as if she'd been waiting by the phone. The previous owners had special dispensation due to their years of service on the board. She informed me with a smug satisfaction in her voice. That agreement expired with the sale. "You'll need to repaint in one of the 7 approved colors within 72 hours or face a daily fine of $25. I complied, repainting the perfectly fine navy blue mailbox to do wing gray, one of the approved colors. I even sent Karen a photo as proof, hoping that would be the end of it. Instead, it marked me as an easy target. The violations began arriving weekly after that. My garden hose wasn't properly coiled. My garbage bins were visible from the street for more than 4 hours after collection. The wreath on my door contained non-approved seasonal colors. Each notice came delivered personally by Karen, who would ring the doorbell insistently until I answered regardless of the hour. "Just doing my job," she would say with a tight smile that never reached her eyes. Someone has to maintain standards around here. The tipping demand came after my 6th violation. Something about the height of my lawn being 0.25 inches above regulation. As I stood there in disbelief at her outstretched hand, I finally found my voice. "That's not how this works," I said firmly. "You're a volunteer board member, not a service provider. I'm already paying HOA fees monthly." Karen's eyes narrowed dangerously. "I see you're going to be difficult. The last homeowner who decided to be difficult ended up with so many violations they had to sell. Such a shame." She turned on her heel. "I'll be watching your property very closely from now on." True to her word, Karen seemed to make monitoring my house her full-time job. She began patrolling the street in front of my home multiple times daily, clipboard in hand. My neighbors warned me in hushed tones at the community mailboxes that I'd been marked as a problem homeowner and to watch my step. One Saturday morning, as I was washing my car in the driveway, an activity explicitly permitted in the HOA guidelines, Karen marched up my driveway, phone in hand. "You're using excessive water and creating runoff onto community property," she declared, snapping photos of the small rivulets of soapy water running toward the street. "That's a $100 fine, and I'll need immediate payment." When I questioned the validity of this violation, she thrust an official-looking document toward me. "New emergency water conservation bylaw passed yesterday. As a courtesy, I'm hand-delivering notices to the worst offenders." She paused meaningfully. "You know, a small token of appreciation would ensure I classify this as a warning rather than a formal violation." That was when I made a crucial decision. I hit the record button on my phone and placed it casually in my shirt pocket. Are you asking me to bribe you to ignore an alleged violation? Karen's expression shifted to one of outrage. It's not a bribe. It's a gratuity for personal service. Do you have any idea how much time I spend keeping this neighborhood looking perfect? The board only pays me a nominal fee. I rely on the appreciation of residents who understand the value of my work. This was news to me. The HOA pays you. I thought board positions were volunteer roles. Her momentary flash of panic told me everything I needed to know. Administrative stipend. She backpedaled quickly for supplies and administrative costs. Now about that violation. I decided to push further. I'd like to see the bylaw documentation and have the full board review this violation before I pay anything. Karen's face contorted with fury. You ungrateful little, she caught herself. Fine. Expect formal communication from our attorney. And don't think about parking on the street tonight. We're doing emergency hydrant clearance assessments, and any vehicle within 50 feet of a hydrant will be immediately towed. After she stormed off, I stopped recording and played it back. Every word was clear, including her admission of receiving payments from the board and her thinly veiled threats. I decided it was time to do some research. That evening, I posted an anonymous query on our neighborhood's online forum asking if anyone else had been pressured to tip the HOA president for violations. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Dozens of neighbors shared similar experiences, with many admitting they'd been paying Karen anywhere from $20 to $50 per interaction to avoid further harassment. One particularly brave soul, a retired attorney named Jim who lived 3 doors down, replied with a bombshell. There is no provision in our bylaws for any board member to receive compensation of any kind. All positions are explicitly volunteer only. I've been suspicious for years, but couldn't prove anything. Armed with this information and my recording, I called an emergency meeting with the remaining board members, carefully excluding Karen. When I played the recording and showed them the online discussion, their reactions ranged from shock to embarrassment to outright anger. We've never authorized any payments to Karen or any board member, the treasurer confirmed, looking pale. But I have noticed discrepancies in our accounts that she always explained away as administrative expenses. We trusted her completely. The vice president, a retired accountant, requested immediate access to the financial records. What they discovered sent shockwaves through the room. Over $37,000 in administrative fees had been paid directly to Karen over the past 2 years, along with thousands more in enforcement bonuses that no one had authorized. This goes beyond HOA misconduct, Jim, the retired attorney, said gravely. This is fraud, intimidation, and possibly extortion. We need to contact the authorities. That's exactly what we did. After filing a formal police report backed by financial records and multiple witness statements, we waited. The police took our claims seriously, especially after hearing my recording and reviewing the evidence of financial misconduct. 3 days later, on a perfect sunny morning, 2 police cruisers pulled up outside Karen's immaculately maintained colonial home. The entire neighborhood seemed to hold its breath as officers approached her door with a warrant. I stood on my front porch, watching from a respectful distance as Karen answered the door in her bathrobe, her expression morphing from annoyance to disbelief to panic. This is ridiculous. I'm the HOA president, she shouted loudly enough for the whole street to hear as officers explained the charges. I maintain order here. These people would live in filth without me. When they informed her she was under arrest for fraud, extortion, and operating an illegal scheme, her indignation reached new heights. You can't be serious. I deserve compensation for my services. These ungrateful residents should be thanking me. As the officers placed her in handcuffs and read her Miranda, Karen locked eyes with me across the street. You, she screeched, struggling against the officers. This is your doing. I'll sue you for everything you have. The police gently guided her toward the waiting cruiser as neighbors emerged from their homes to witness the fall of their self-appointed ruler. The charges, as announced at her arraignment the following day, were extensive. 7 counts of fraud, multiple counts of extortion, falsifying financial records, and operating an illegal money collection scheme. The judge set bail at $50,000 and issued a restraining order preventing her from contacting any neighborhood residents. The prosecutor informed us that Karen was facing up to 8 years in prison and fines exceeding $100,000. When she heard this in court, her carefully maintained facade finally cracked completely. But they were breaking the rules, she wailed, mascara streaming down her face. Someone had to maintain standards. I deserved something for my efforts.